Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Cole Phillips, author of The Adventure of the Twisted Truths and host of The Book and Dagger, the YouTube channel where we talk about everything fiction and fantasy. Now, today we are doing a second part to my earlier video on faith and fantasy. In my earlier video, Faith and Fantasy, I talked about my beliefs why Christians should read and consume fantasy content, why they should create it, and how I believe it can help strengthen a Christian's walk with God, or in the cases of them trying to reach other people who may not be Christians. I believe that fantasy and fiction can be a useful tool if done right to helping reach those people. This video, I want to kind of talk a little more about the subject because the subject has always been fascinating to me about the correlations between the Bible and a lot of fantasy stories. One of the biggest things that I would like to talk about is the role of the prophecy often plays in fantasy. Prophecy is a big part of fantasy. Almost every single fantasy story you'll ever read has at least some mention of an ancient prophecy surrounding the main character, or just prophecies in general. Obviously, like in the Chronicles of Narnia, there's the prophecy of Cair Paravel, when the two sons of Adam, two daughters of Eve, will come, and once they sit on those thrones, the wicked, the White Witch's time will be over and done. In Harry Potter, there's the prophecy, the chosen one who will uh, defeat Voldemort, and also in Star Wars is the prophecy of the chosen one who will destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force. Lord of the Rings also has many prophetic moments. One of the biggest ones being the prophecy of the final battle when like Turambar and his black sword and a bunch of other heroes of old will come, and there'll be like the final kind of confrontation with Morgoth. There's also obviously the prophecy of the Witch King and how he won't fall by the hand of man, and just prophecy plays a big role in fantasy, and it plays a big role in the Bible. There are so many prophets in the Old Testament who speak of the coming of Jesus, or the building and just fall of the temple, or the fall of Jerusalem, or just any world altering event. God used prophets to speak to the people of Israel and warn them, hey, this is coming. And in fantasy you find a lot of prophecies. Almost, like I said, almost every single fantasy book has prophecies. And one of the best fantasy series I've actually found that I think personally does prophecy the best is the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. The Wheel of Time is full of prophecies, and they're very well done prophecies in the sense that the prophecy will say something, and you'll be reading the book series and you'll be thinking, oh, I wonder what this means, or you'll think, I think I know what this means. And then the prophecy will, like, the books will progress and the prophecy will be fulfilled, and oftentimes the prophecy is subtly fulfilled. They don't explicitly say, oh, hey, by the way, this character fulfilled the prophecy, but the prophecy is fulfilled, and you get kind of this, oh, like, that the prophecy was just fulfilled, that's what it meant, which is something I really love when a book or movie does that. But also, Robert Jordan wrote prophecy just so well. Like, his prophecies is literally like beautiful poetry, and it sounds very biblical. For example, I want to read you a this is a quote from one of the Wheel of Times here, is a prophecy about the main character, and it really sums up the whole book series. The prophecy goes, and the shadow fell upon the land, and the world was riven stone from stone. The oceans fled, and the mountains were swallowed up, and the nations were scattered to the eight corners of the world. The moon was as blood, the sun was as ashes, the seas boiled, and the living envied the dead. All was shattered, and all but memory lost, and one memory above all others, of him who brought the shadow and the breaking of the world, and him they named Dragon. And it came to pass in those days, as it had come before and would come again, that the dark lay heavy on the land, and weighed down the hearts of men, and the green things failed, and hope died, and men cried out to the Creator, saying, O light of the heavens, light of the world, let the promised one be born of the mountain, according to the prophecies, as he was in ages past, and will be in ages to come. Let the Prince of the morning sing to the land, that green things will grow, and valleys give forth lambs. Let the arm of the Lord of the dawn shelter us from the dark, and the great sword of justice defend us. Let the dragon ride again on the winds of time. I don't know about you, but I get goosebumps every time I hear that like narrated in the audiobook, or every time I read it, I just get, having read the books, I just get so excited. And that right there, I feel, is a great just connection right there, because there's the line in it that says, and men cried out to the, when things are like getting dark and everything's despairing in the world and hope is dying, men turn to the creator and they're like, oh light of the world, which is like Jesus is often called that in the books, like, or in the Bible, we often call, Jesus the light of the world. And this right here is like, it's a direct parallel to how so many times in the Bible, when and even today, when God's people will turn away from him, and they'll like just start to experience, God will let all these bad things happen to them because they're sinning and ultimately going to condemn themselves to a life in hell. And then God lets bad things happen, like Satan do bad things to them, and then the people, they get so full of despair and they lose all hope, and they turn to God and they cry out to him, and God sends someone to save them, oftentimes in the form of a judge or a prophet or something like that. So prophecy is, I feel, is probably the biggest link between the Bible and fantasy content. And also, it's really cool, and I think it's something that God knew. Like well, I mean, obviously God knows everything, but I feel like God, knowing that humans just feel this connection to prophecy. I feel like when we create books or movies with kind of a Christ-like character and prophecies centered around it, it really like helps people see the parallels between the worlds we make and the real world, the one that God made. And I feel like that can be a big help towards drawing people towards Christianity. Those are just a couple of my thoughts on faith and fantasy. And it's a subject I've always found fascinating, is that just the parallels a lot of times we see between the real world that God made and the stories in the Bible, and then the on the other hand, the fictional stories that people write. And a lot of times, they're classic like the Lord of the Rings, the Chronicles of Narnia, the Wheel of Time. Just there's so many just parallels, and you just sit there and you're like, okay, why these are classic. They're classics for a reason, and it's because it's great storytelling and writing, and it ultimately points you back to God if you see it there. Yeah, those are just my thoughts on fiction and fantasy. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.